your lick back. I feel like I'm JX.
J-Way.
I'm a perfectionist. Adderall got me restless.
I'm gone.
Run with a wild crew, they get reckless. Young boy, come up off that neck.
Give me
Into
that.
the trench. See a lead, be the band.
Good afternoon, and welcome back to another episode of Corner to Copa. I'm here with my co-host, Coach. How you feeling, man? Now that you know what you know, because I don't think we knew when the show ended, where we were going, or maybe we did. Anyways,
we knew where we were going. We just didn't know what time we'd be playing. Houston was the destination. Once we lost, it wouldn't have mattered what happened with Kansas City was winning, so a tie would give them a higher seed, so.
Right. Okay,
yeah, but yep, we are in Houston now. Baltimore will host Kansas City. And you talk about meaningful baseball. We had a couple makeup games today, real quick, that had to be played between the Mets and Braves. And boy, before we get into these awards briefly, just because we're so in the baseball moment right now, Braves had a 3-0 lead heading into the 8th inning. And when I mean all hell broke loose, I mean all hell broke loose. The Mets scored 6 in the top of the 8th inning, including lighting up former Tiger Joel Jimenez and their closer, Rafael Iglesias. And then in the bottom half, the Braves came back and scored 4 of their own to take the lead back on a bases 2 RBI double by Albies. And then the Mets scored 2 more on a crazy Francisco Lindor home run to win by 1. So the Mets are in. Braves must win game 2 to be in. If they don't, the Diamondbacks get in to solidify the National League picture. And Chris Sale, who was supposed to start game 2, their Cy Young front runner, was scratched right before first pitch with back spasms. So they're off right now in game 2 to determine that. But more importantly, let's go over some awards for our Detroit Tigers this year, the 2024 team.
Absolutely.
Quickly here, we'll run down the list real quick of the categories before we give our selections here. So we have MVP, Pitcher of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year or non-pitcher, our personal Gold Glove selection, Super Utility Man, and Most Improved. We'll go backwards here, ending with MVP. So we will start with Most Improved. Foster, who'd you like for Most Improved this year?
Okay, so we touched on this a little bit yesterday. I think the way it came about, coming up with our selections, our mindsets were a little bit differently. I more so went off of, guys that somebody that played last year and made a vast improvement in the next year, where I think yours might have been a progression throughout the entire the first year, but at any rate, they both kind of make sense. But I went with Matt Vierling. I think Matt Vierling was a guy that has kind of been an unsung hero. He was durable this year. He played a lot of different positions. And I think that he was kind of on the cusp last year, whether or not he was like a utility fourth outfielder. And I feel like in a sense, he kind of solidified himself as somebody that could possibly play corner infield day in and day out. His statistics were pretty much similar, although he played in a few more games this year. But I think that one thing that he did improve on was his power. He was a guy that slapped a lot of balls to the opposite field and didn't really drive a lot of balls to the pull side. And I think that's one thing that he did improve on this year. He had 10 home runs last year. And I believe that he upped that total about six home runs. Let me check real quick. So last year he had 10 home runs and he improved to 16, I believe. Yeah, 10 home runs to 16. He played in 10 more games. But yeah, I think that he's a guy that has made vast improvements to his approach. He squared up a lot more pitches, and his exit velocity increased over the year. But who are your thoughts on improvement?
I originally was I had Cole Keith. I mean, a little difficult. Yeah, he started off slow, but I think to better represent that category and most improved, I went ahead and made a late change, and I went with Reese Olson, really stepping up his game from last year. Didn't make too many starts last year, but first full year with the club minus the little hiccup of injury in the latter quarter of the year. He quietly was having an excellent year with just being overshadowed by Flaherty and Scooble, rightfully so. But we pointed out, we were quick, like, look, the record doesn't reflect how good this kid actually is right now. And at one point, I know we kind of dubbed those three guys our three-headed monster, if you will, an ode to the old Braves rotation back in the 90s with Maddox and Glavine and Smoltz. But, Reese really came on and showed that he's got more than just flashes of potential to be a potential dominant anchor, or at worst case, you got Scooble 1A and he'd be your 1B. His efficiency improved, his K rate improved, guys are chasing and whiffing. He really developed and elevated his game to be a potential go-to, number 2 guy behind Scooble. So it was really impressive to see. He's only had a few outings since he came back off the injured list, kind of getting his feet back underneath him. But I fully expect him to be a solid contributor here in the postseason, starting tomorrow in Houston.
Yeah, you switched that one up right under my nose. I saw what you originally had in there, but at any rate, that's actually a good call on the switch up. So what's the next category?
All right, moving on. We are going to go with the super utility man, and really there were only 3 at most, I believe I listed, and it really kind of just come down to McKinstry, Vierling, and to a more critical degree, because it was infield spots, Andy Ibanez. So I'll go ahead and let you take first crack at this one.
Yeah. So this is I think there's only one. I mean, there's a couple different guys that could be considered, but Zach McKinstry definitely played the most positions this year. Another Ironman candidate, a guy that played. Didn't play every single last game, but I think was physically healthy for just about all of them. He played a multitude of positions. He even pitched this year when we were getting blown out. So, I think he pretty much played every position outside of catcher and first base. This is a guy that was, all but 1 foot out the door, the way he was struggling at one point in this year. But I think a lot of circumstances and factors kept him on this roster. One being that, we did have a lot of injuries. And he's a guy that can play anywhere. Obviously, Baez was not great this year, and he's pretty much the only guy up until Sweeney joining the team. He's the only other. McKinstry was the only other guy that could play shortstop outside of Baez, but he really came in the clutch this year. He had a lot of big hits, a lot of triples, and that's the most exciting play in baseball, and really can jumpstart a team. So he had a lot of clutch moments late in games. He had a nice sizable hit streak as well, and these were in as you have noted previously, these were in a lot of situations where he was pinch hitting and he had one opportunity to keep that his streak alive. He didn't have 3 or 4 opportunities. So can't say enough about him. I'll look past the fact that he's a Chippewa. It's one of the ongoing jokes that we always have about Zach McKinstry. And I'm not gonna lie, I held it against him a little bit when, he was struggling, but I think he's the undisputed super utility man.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, tip of the cap to Vierling for, like you said, Ironman played second most games behind at 100, I think 144 games. We looked it up yesterday for the regular show. just as durable. And the reason why I give McKinstry a little bit more of the nod than Vierling, and to the same breath too, I don't think McKinstry was placed on the IL at any point in time either. I think he was fully readily healthy all year. But like you alluded to with the hitting streak, as good as his glove was needed in the field, because he is a pretty sound defender, and they struggled early with errors all over the field. First base, second base. Obviously Parker was sent down. We didn't really have a true center fielder. We're rotating guys in to help kind of, cover it for a little bit, piece it together until he could get it back around. But like you said, that stretch where he got hot, and with a handful of pinch hit opportunities that he delivered on, he started to come around, and it became clear that he was fully embracing this role of super utility. And not only that, it seemed like he was the guys started to get, when Parker came up again in July and some of the other guys in Torque came back, and they really got going after they started to get warm, then they got hot. It looked like he started to have fun again. So it kind of eased some of the maybe anxiety or nerves of, I get limited playing time and at bats. I gotta capitalize everything. He kind of settled in. He settled down, and he made the most of his opportunities, and it looked like he was having fun after a lot of the guys were struggling at the beginning of the year. So I really think that's why I give him a little bit more than out over Vierling. But, I mean, there's no wrong answer, honestly, between those two choices. So moving on to the next category here, we're going defensive, flashing the leather, Gold Glove. Foster, go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, this is another one that's pretty cut and dry. I think this is undisputed. There is nobody that deserves this deserves this award on the Tigers more than him. But I went with Parker Meadows, yet another guy that that had struggled early in the year. And we could see the glimpses of potential in what he could do. And I'm not going to dwell too much on the offensive side of things, but I think despite the struggles that he did have offensively, the defense was never in question. I mean, this guy is in the 90th percentile as far as outs above average and range, with the 6. He has a average arm, but this guy is in the 92nd percentile as far as sprint speed, and he just gets to anything that's not directly hit right on the ground, anywhere in the area of the alley or center field, he's getting his hands on, even if he's got to take it from over the fence. I mean, you're going to have to hit it way over the fence to get it out of the way, because the guy is also 6'5", and I'm assuming has some pretty good leaping ability as well. But these, he should probably win the Gold Glove in the major leagues. I think the only thing that might be in question is whether or not he played enough games, because he did have a stint on the injured list, and he did spend about a month and a half, 2 months in Toledo as well. But I mean, you can pretty much stamp that he's going to have quite a few Gold Gloves in the future. So yeah, Parker Meadows.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. Yep. I mean, prior to his return, when he first was sent down, he was the number 1 ranked defensive or center fielder at the time. I think we highlighted on that. So it was just a matter of, getting the bat around. And we've seen the highlights of him, making huge hits, but the amount of the impact he had on high leverage plays late game to either hold a lead or prevent a tie from becoming a deficit. I mean, he kind of looked a little bit like some little Ken Griffey, a little Mike Trout out there, leaping high up as he did in the Mariners game and robbing a couple home runs throughout the year. I mean, those were top 10 plays of the week or the month even, that he was making. And like you said, yeah, I mean, if it's not a worm burner that's going to, kill a family of worms on the ground, like you said, he's getting to it. His range is incredible. We haven't really seen his arm yet, but I'd frankly, if you don't need to use it that often because you're getting to the ball in the air, then that's fine. That's a good thing, actually. But prior to his return, I would have given it to Riley Green. Had some very nice plays in the outfield, was consistent all year. Maybe not some of the flashiest plays at Parker in terms of robbing home runs, but he definitely robbed his fair share of base hits that could have been, extra base hits as well if they hadn't been made. So tip of the cap to Riley. But yeah, I think like for us, this is kind of a shoe-in winner for Parker Meadows, winning Team Gold Glove of the year. And moving on here, we're going to go to Offensive Player of the Year. The 3 remaining categories left. I'll kick this one off here.
Let's get to a break real quick, and then I'll let you
go ahead.
Yeah.
Drum roll, suspense.
All right, take it away.
All right. There probably could be a couple different candidates for this. Offensively with the bat, we missed him a little bit in the middle of this mid-late summer. But when he came back, man, he was just as vengeful as, Parker and Colt coming back. But I went with Kerry Carpenter, who finished 5th in the major leagues in slugging. The guy just barrels the ball, drives it with authority. Some of these home runs he hits, they almost look effortless, but man, he does such a good job with his mechanics of keeping the barrel in the sweet spot squared up and through the hitting plane as long as possible to give himself the highest chance in terms of being able to drive the ball and drive it with power. In a meaningless game for us Sunday night, 5-0 lead for Chicago, and then he comes up to bat and hits this towering grand slam to right center, one of the deepest parts of the park to hit one. And it just goes to show that, his bat, if I'm AJ right now, I'm like, I don't know if I want to pinch him in the playoffs. I understand the analytics of it and everything, but man, this is your best power hitter. And I don't think it's really that close. There might be some other guys, Parker's got some pop to him. Torkelson's shown some flash of the power that he's had previously, but not to the same degree compared to last year's late run that he had. Kerry's been the guy for me, and I really don't see a better option in my opinion, but let's go ahead and hear what you have for your selection, Foster.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that Kerry Carpenter is a good candidate for it. I think the only other guy that you can maybe consider is Riley Green. He was the lone offensive non-pitcher all-star, but he was given an outright selection as well, and he ended up having a pretty good year. I mean, Kerry definitely down the stretch, no pun intended, did kind of carry us. I mean, not carry us, but he did will us to a lot of victories. Pretty much the minute he got back. He got back off an injury list. I mean, he only played in 87 games this year. This guy, we doubted that he would play again for the rest of this season. And I can confidently say you take Kerry Carpenter out of that lineup, we're not here right now. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to be said about that. So yeah, for him to have 18 home runs, he only played in 87 games. And he's 27 years old, and he was drafted in the last round of the last round of the MLB draft. So I mean, this guy made a huge turnaround and defied a lot of the odds in front of him as well. And yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. He does have some insane power. I can't wait to see him for a full year of action. But yeah, it's certainly honorable mention. Riley Green, he did end the year with 24 home runs, which led the team, and he had 74 RBIs as well, which probably led the team. So yeah, but you can't lose either way with those guys. Obviously, Riley Green played in 137 games, so that helped helped his cause as far as longevity and the numbers wise. But when you project out what Kerry Carpenter would have did in just maybe 30, 40 more games, it's crazy to think about what it would be. But what we got next?
Yeah, no, he would. You project over 162 games. Obviously, he's not playing them all. If you did the number raw like that, he'd be close to almost a 30 home run guy. But I think more realistically, the numbers would reflect probably somewhere between 23 and 26 home runs, which in today's day and age right now is very respectable in the major leagues. 25, I'd like to see him hopefully next year drive in 90, 95 runs, close to 100 as possible. And I think that'll really establish himself around the rest of the league. Like, okay, I'm a middle of the lineup hitter, power guy, come get some. So moving on to the second to last category here, we have now transitioned to the pitcher of the year. Foster, go ahead. Let us hear who you have selected.
Pitcher of the year. I concur with the selection that you have. Tyler Holden was a guy that was very integral in the system that we had going on for a lot of the year, and as far as the openers, the having all he was a guy that opened games. I want to say had a few saves as well, but he was often called upon in high leverage situations to get us out of jams. And I think there was a stretch of baseball where he was probably statistically the best pitcher, all things considered. He's not a strikeout guy, but for a guy that wasn't just a lefty specialist going up against lefties, this is a guy that was going up against your best right-handed hitters as well. And he just shut things down. He had many holes in tough situations where, how many games did we win by 1 run? So Tyler Holden had a lot to do with that, as well as Foley. Foley can't overlook Foley, another guy that was healthy all year long and was dependable in a lot of different tough situations. But yeah, ultimately Foley was never an opener. He never started games. I feel like that would have to be pretty weird to be put in a situation as a bullpen guy that's in high leverage situations, pitching from 7th inning on, having to open the game, cold turkey, nothing, fresh slate. So yeah, I think Tyler Holden is a good choice for that.
Yeah, and briefly, some numbers. He was clean on saves. He was 8 for 8. He even had 15 holds. Like you said, he had a handful of openers as well. That's the kind of dynamic pitcher he is. He can go out there game 1, throw 1 inning, 15, 18, 20 pitches maybe, and then be able to pitch in a high leverage late game, 6th, 7th, 8th inning roles to set up for Foley, who really was the more traditional closer when he was available. Certainly 8th or 9th inning. He didn't come in too much beyond those. But for those of you that watched the player profile on Tyler Holden, we called out a couple of the innings that he absolutely dominates. And those were the 6th and 7th innings where, he just owned these hitters this year. And frankly, he dominated going back to last year too, when he made his call-up and appearance on the club. He's had multiple 2 10-game stretches consecutively without allowing an earned run. And that's actually both of them coming in like 12, 13 months of time. So, this guy is here to stay. He is going to be a very he's a cornerstone piece to this, whatever you want to call it. We'll call it a flock of arms, for lack of, identifying term here, because no one has a set role. All these guys are kind of rolling around different spots here. It's like playing the little, cup under the ball under the cup game. You don't know which inning they're coming in or which guy it is. But Holden, yeah, I really think with him and Foley helped lock down with the starting rotation. they're the anchor, and this is going to be a very good bullpen, whether they stay with this or they go more the traditional route for the next few years. So we're definitely excited to have him apart. But yeah, Tyler Holton, both Foster and I's choice for pitcher of the year. Lastly, we have our MVP, and I will say I went a little bit off. You could have named who I picked for pitch of the year too, frankly, but that'd be a little boring, a little vanilla. So Foster, who is your 2024 Detroit Tiger MVP?
So yeah, this is I think we definitely saved the best for last on this one. This is a guy that had I think he only played it in half. I think he played a half year last year, but it was a strong year, and he had some pretty lofty expectations as far as what he could accomplish moving forward. This is a guy that there were a lot of rumors that we might try to dump him, while strike with the irons hot and get load up on prospects. But ultimately we chose to stick with him. This is the undisputed AL Cy Young winner, and he was also the AL Triple Crown pitching Triple Crown winner with 18 wins to a 2.39 ERA and 228 strikeouts. So yeah, he pretty much covered every base as far as that's concerned, and he was as far as pitching is concerned, he was for the most part healthy all year. Outside of, I think we kind of tapered off a little bit on his amount of innings, and which ended up working out well, especially with us now having him start the first game of the playoffs. But yeah, Tarik Skubal is the MVP of the Detroit Tigers, in my opinion.
I agree. It might seem like a cheeky selection to some, and you know what? This team wouldn't be here without him in that position they were in. 18 wins. He almost won the league Triple Crown, like the entire major league, because of Chris Sale not starting game 2 for Atlanta today. The only category Sale did not lead in this year across all starting pitchers is ERA. He finished with a 2.39 ERA. Sale 0.38. That's how close it came down to. Not 1/10, 1/100th of a ERA point away from that, which would have been really cool to see. But again, we've talked about it a little bit on the regular show the other day. Last Tiger to win the Triple Crown pitching, Justin Verlander, and that's who we're going to see this week. So a lot of storylines there, obviously, with AJ being the former manager and whatnot. But, you could make an argument, I think, potentially for Parker or Carey or even Riley Green. All these guys played pivotal roles at different times. No one was really great all year long. Vierling, I think, was, like you said, was most consistent throughout the year, but that kind of led to him not being, he didn't have flashes of going 4 for 4 with a home run, another extra base hit, and 5 RBIs. It wasn't anything crazy like that. He was a pretty regular contributor, but the value that Tarik Skubal brings as a starting pitcher, I mean, the fact that we roll him out there and we just pretty much expect to win, okay, I might not put it in pen, but first 5-6 innings, you ain't gonna leave with the lead. If it's not a lead, guess what? It's gonna be 0-0 or 1-1, because he just does not make that many mistakes, and he really evolved over the course of the year too. He got knocked around a little bit by some other teams. Kansas City had his number early. He made some adjustments, and they talked about that on the broadcast. His last start against Kansas City, they started to tee off on his changeup a little bit. He had a game plan. He stuck to his strengths pretty much most of the year. And Kansas City, I guess, came up with a good approach, and it was working for a few innings. So he said to hell with it, and he made his own adjustment and basically just gave nothing but heat to get him off the changeup. And then I think the third time through, or partially through the third time through, he went back to the changeup, and that proved to be truly effective in that manner. So he is making adjustments on his own in game, which, if I'm a hitter, that's kind of scary because usually that kind of needs, some attention from your catcher and maybe pitching coach and a mound visit to be like, hey, this isn't working too much right now. We need to mix it up. Here's what we could do, blah, blah, blah. Instead, he's just kind of taking ownership, like a star player, superstar player. Yeah, forget star. This guy's a superstar. And he's really becoming one of his own and coming into his own in that spotlight. And I thank God we didn't trade him. I mean, it seemed logical too, possibly depending on what Ilitch may or may not do in the offseason this year and next year. Might be getting a little bit of ourselves ahead here, but this guy is deserving of an extension. He's going to get one. It's just a matter of when. And he's got the accolades to back it up now at 27, healthy, full year under his belt. And we can't be more excited to have him. And I think the league now is on notice that we do have a plus horse in the stable at any given moment in time. So Tarik Skubal, our unanimous selection for MVP. Foster, did you have any other final notes or comments you wanted to add on the show?
Yeah, just to round up the whole Tarik Skubal situation, I think at one point around the trading deadline, there was a question of whether or not he would even want to be interested in staying here, knowing that we were, quote unquote, at one point wasting a lot of his prime time. And I think that is no longer in question at this point. If you're not having fun on this team, I mean, just you can't fake some of the reactions and just the way they have just acted in the heat of all this excitement and winning and stuff like that. And I think that there is, assuming that the money is the right situation. There's no other team that Skubal would honestly want to play for at this point, because we really have something. We're a young team. We're building up, and we should be a force for years to come. But yeah, that pretty much rounds out the award show. And if you haven't had an opportunity to watch the Tigers a lot this year, that was kind of a little 30-minute snapshot of the entire year and who are some of the key players to this season that is continuing to go on. And stay tuned, because we're definitely going to be having some shows reacting to the playoff games themselves. And so be on the lookout for that. So subscribe to Corner to Copa on all audio aggregators and Bleachers to Speakers on YouTube, so you guys can get that notification when we do go live to discuss these topics. But let's get up out of here. I got a Lions pregame real soon. So tune into that as well.
Quick little point here, and it's gonna come up. AJ Hinch will probably get some votes for Manager of the Year potentially. All right, so I got to put that out there. Okay, I'd be remiss if I didn't. But also, lastly, Foster on our regular weekly show the other day mentioned. I just wanted to echo. Thank you to all of the listeners and viewers. I can't believe that it's already been 5 months. We started this in April, kind of a little bit after opening day. Had to get some stuff together here. But we really appreciate your support and continued viewership throughout this postseason and in the off season eventually. We're just two guys from the Detroit area that love baseball. We, in a lot of the hometown teams here, but we have a true passion for baseball. So thank you, genuinely thank you. We hope we stick around. We hopefully can provide some new and different content for you guys. But thank you very much for tuning in, and hopefully we'll look at some playoff success here in the near future.
We're out.